What is up, my nerds? We all love Deino. Deino's great. Deinosuchus is one of the scariest things they've added in this game in quite some time. Deino will not be alone in the waters forever. Rex is gonna cause Deino a whole world of trouble. Triceratops won't even be grabbed by Deinosuchus, even swimming in the water. Things like Spinosaurus and Deinocheirus, both massive, huge water-dwelling creatures, are gonna cause Deino such a huge problem. Spino and Deinocheirus most likely weighing more than a Deinosuchus and sharing the same ecosystem. At the end of the day, I have zero doubt that it will end up working. Every creature is going to have a specific habitat they're going to reside in. Deinosuchus can obviously go much deeper than any of the other animals that I'm going to be talking about. Spino isn't really a deep water dwelling animal, especially the Isles version where it's much more of a terrestrial animal, but with its overall design, this thing is gonna be like pretty mediocre on land and water compared to other creatures of the same size. I have no doubt Spino will be throwing hands, but Rex is obviously going to have the advantage on land. If somehow Rex doesn't have the advantage, Rex can always just walk away. I doubt Spino is gonna be very fast, but when the Spino has decided he's done on land for the day and he goes to chill in the water, what is Deino gonna do to prevent actual murder? Deinosuchus released with Pteranodon in Update 3 when we were still on Isla Spyro. This was a few years ago now, and Deino is very much planned to have more abilities in the future. Pretty much all the older Evrima animals right now are looking at some sort of ability rework and or additions. Deinosuchus is one of the biggest ones, literally and figuratively. But mechanics aside, Deinosuchus brought such a crazy atmosphere to Evrima that Legacy never really saw. Legacy had a completely unique atmosphere on its own, and I think the general atmosphere of Legacy is much better than what we have in Evrima right now due to a fear factor. Legacy somehow brought out this primal fear in players that Evrima hasn't really touched on unless it's going to the water. I'm not saying Legacy is very good. Compared to Evrima, Legacy is very much behind, obviously, and that is the intention. Pretty much 90% of the learning curve once you learn how to survive in Legacy is learning how the hitboxes work, and keep in mind these aren't like normal hitboxes. The hitboxes in Legacy are horrible. Legacy players will like shit on you if you didn't know that Rex's body hitbox leans like fucking 20 meters to the right or some shit. But Deinosuchus added something to the game that Legacy had for the longest time. Deinosuchus made people actually afraid. Deinosuchus's existence made such a huge impact on how players react and survive on the island. Speaking about having a huge impact, I think you need a huge impact on your drip. Check out my store I launched not too long ago. I sell a bunch of super drippy hoodies on there, each with their own unique dinosaur skull design that I made myself. If you can't find your favorite dinosaur on there, join my Discord, and I have a merch suggestions channel where you can drop what you want to see be added to the store. But yeah, I'll leave a link to the store in the comments and the description. Please go check it out, and let's continue. But back to what I was saying, waters will never be the same again. Every time you go up to get a drink from the water, you are constantly scared of something grabbing you, just jumping in a moment's notice where you can't react fast enough. And that kind of fear is what we need everywhere. The player needs some room to breathe and relax. Socializing with other players of your species are a huge deal in this sort of game. Having that moment of safety and security would be very important, especially to some playables. Different playables will have different levels of security, different levels of space to breathe. Some animals will be more on edge all the time. Some animals, maybe like Triceratops, Stego, are pretty much just chilling out most of their life with very little actual like challenge once they're full grown, of course, because then the number of natural predators they have are very little. But having animals like Deino, where it brings some sort of worry to every animal depending on the scenario, would be such a good thing to add to the game, and we will be getting that. Quetzalcoatlus is going to be the Deinosuchus of the sky. Don't catch yourself in an open field with open skies completely exposed. A Quetzalcoatlus might swoop down, swallow you whole, or bring you back to its nest to feed to its children, and you get ripped apart alive. And Herrera sort of did that with forests, but with how how large forests are, and with the player count, there's not really many Herreras per space on the island, so you don't really have to worry about looking up into the trees all the time, mostly just in certain locations, especially hotspots. And you could say the same thing about Deino if you start to recognize Deino's patterns of movement and where Deino has access to, where it doesn't. And with how many changes that Gateway has gotten, the level of fear from Deinos have dropped drastically from Spyro, just because Deino has much less access to many water sources on the island. But with inclusions like Spino, Baryonyx, Suko, I think that's going to seriously change. Deinosuchus isn't going to be widely available to every ecosystem on the map. Certain ecosystems it's going to have a hard time traversing through, maybe some it won't be able to go to at all, which is perfectly fine, because you're going to have different animals that are built for different kinds of habitats, and that's what builds a nice dynamic ecosystem where you're not going to see the same animal twice in a day. Compared to how it is now, you pretty much see the same stuff everywhere. Of course, every playable is catered to some sort of playstyle that not every player is going to enjoy. Deinosuchus is very much for a patient, more chill playstyle that revolves around focusing on what lives where and basically just waiting. Players like Defeat Pete have Deinosuchus gameplay down to a T, and then you have players like me that forget I'm a Deinosuchus, and then I end up drowning in the water I'm waiting in because I was waiting for so long I forgot I was playing Deino. It's happened quite a few times to me. And I can very happily say I'm not the biggest fan of Deinosuchus gameplay, and that's fine. Nobody is going to like every playstyle of every creature in the game. It's just how it's going to happen. But there will be a playable for everybody, hopefully. But for Deinosuchus players specifically, how are they going to deal with inclusions like Deinocheirus and Spinosaurus when they're actually released? Spino, Deino, and Deinocheirus aren't going to be exclusive to one space on the island. There will be some overlap at some points in time. It is inevitable. Currently, Deino doesn't have the utility to deal with larger animals, but I'm here to tell you it doesn't necessarily have to. Obviously, Deinosuchus is getting a vertical lunge. When he's getting vertical lunge, I don't know. At some point, he will get it. If they add Rex to the game right now, how would Deinosuchus deal with Rex? Raw power output? I'm pretty sure Rex is on top. As well as sheer weight, Rex weighs quite a bit more than a Deinosuchus. My surefire answer would just be to stay away from the Rex. You see a Rex crossing the river, maybe there's your chance to get a few bites off if you have a few full-grown Deinos, because I genuinely don't think if you see a Rex crossing the river, you should engage, because a Deinosuchus is not grabbing a full-grown Rex. As of right now, a Deino can grab things half its weight if it's on land, but if something is swimming in the water and it is 75% of Deino's weight, Deino can grab that too. And I do have to make this clear, Deinosuchus is not going to be on the very top of the food chain forever. At some point in time in this game's lifespan, Deinosuchus will actually have to run away, even if it's in the water. But if it doesn't have the option to run away, will Vertical Lunge change that? Is Vertical Lunge going to be available to use on land as well? That is all up for speculation, because right now, as far as we know, Vertical Lunge is purely for grabbing flying creatures that are flying above the water. That is all we have really seen from it. So unless it's given some sort of alternative interaction with larger playables, I don't think it's going to be much use to you. So if you see a Spino or a Rex, don't engage, just fucking go on about your day, swim away. And I don't usually like talking about 1v1 situations. I know that's not what this game is meant to be, but in a 1v1 scenario between a Deinosuchus and a Spinosaurus, I genuinely think Spinosaurus is just toppling Deinosuchus in both water and land encounter. Massive, meaty claws that it cannot lose with. Spinosaurus is most likely going to be 10 to 12 tons. Deinosuchus at the moment, weighing 8 tons, is having a hard time with Stego being 6 tons. So unless they rework Deinosuchus, his damage and how his abilities work, and maybe the grabbing thresholds for different weights, Deinosuchus is getting slapped by a Spino in land and water. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Ostro, Barry, and Suchomimus, which are mainly going to be living around or in the water. Is Deinosuchus gonna be very much of a problem? Obviously, with the inclusion of more semi-aquatic animals, you're going to see less people playing Deinosuchus, but that doesn't eliminate Deinosuchus entirely. They're going to need to be very, very careful. Deinosuchus, even with Spino and Rex in the game, he is still going to be a very, very powerful, formidable animal to deal with. So, Deinosuchus players, I wouldn't worry too much about feeling useless. You still have plenty of things that you can wrap your teeth around and drown underwater. But maybe one day we'll potentially get a mechanic where you can tussle with the larger animals. That's just something I would like to see at some point in time. Sparring was already super complicated enough. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, because it really would be a shame if Deino players just left Deino in the dust to play something else. So yeah, 10k subs, I make an OnlyFans, but other than that, yeah, I'll see you. Peace.